y'all just needed to be woken up. That was it. So
Are you doing a class tonight?
I guess so. Yes, Dylan is not with us tonight, so he's in Marietta, Oklahoma, preaching for them. Yeah, I was about to say, in fact, Horace and he, I guess, went out visiting this afternoon, and he had told Horace, he goes, I got to get gone by 2. Yeah, so he had a couple-hour drive down to Marietta, but yes, he's preaching down there for their lecture series this week. So, but then he'll be back. So he'll be back Sunday, and we'll let him back and teach on Wednesdays. But they asked me to teach, so you have to put up with me tonight. So I know it's sad. It's sad. So we all cry. So I don't really know of any announcements off the top of my head. I really don't know any announcements off the top of my head. I know there's several in the Sentinel and everything.
Friday the 25th is Mason and Kyla's dinner.
Their dinner. Mason and Kyla. Sign up sheet on the bulletin board for the Friday. We've had it in the Sentinel the past couple weeks, but we're having a Friday kind of fellowship dinner. There's a sign up sheet on the bulletin board for Mason and Kyla. So that'd be a week from this Friday, yes. Week from this Friday, we'll have that dinner for them.
Mason will be traveling in this Friday, so there's storms expected, so prayers to be.
So prayers that he has a safe travel, obviously.
An uneventful trip.
Yes. We want him to get here so he can be here for the dinner, so.
Yes.
Say,
Josh, my brother-in-law, Kerry Antoine, has been seeing a cardiologist recently. He's got some pretty major blockage in a couple of arteries. He's having, at least, stents put in, they know a week from Friday, and doctor said it may be more extensive than that, depending on what you find.
okay. So yes, we want to keep him in our prayers. Say, any others? Blue?
Let's remember the survivors of the Muir building.
Yes, that anniversary here is on the 19th, so that's what, 3 days? If I can do math, so, yeah. Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, that'd be Saturday, yes. It'd be Saturday, it'd be the Murrow anniversary, of course. So I think everyone in here is old enough to remember that, so. So I think Carrie's the youngest one in here, actually, so. Yeah. But anyway, well, no, Max, there he is. So, Max is the youngest, so. But anyway, Dwayne, if you would you lead us in a prayer before we begin our class?
Our Lord and Father in heaven, we thank you always for the opportunities we have to assemble, to fellowship, and not only to do that, but to study your word. Be with Josh tonight, the things he provides us with, and things that he teaches will be according to your word and guidance of your word. Pray that the things he does we can take and use in our daily lives. And everything from your word, we pray we will continue to look at it as we can use everything in our daily lives to teach your word, spread your word, and hopefully be influences for those around us. Be with those who are going through health issues at this time. We have some that are recovering, and those who will be having procedures coming up. Be with them all and help them. Pray that they could be healed and be able to be back again once again doing your work. We thank you for your son, Jesus, and it is his blood that gives us the ability to have our sins forgiven and to have that opportunity for an eternal life with you. And it is in his name that we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, so this evening, as I was going through, I told Dylan, I think I'm gonna teach on stewardship, I thought, I'm not going to try to follow up your lessons by any means. You know, I'll let you pick up where you were. So, but we're going to talk a little bit about stewardship tonight. If you were to think on probably one of the most common ways that we think of stewardship, what might you think of? Money. Oh, everyone answers. See, I know what the number one answer is. Number one answer goes up on the board. It's money. You know, we're taught to be good stewards of money, you know, to be giving and trusting with money. But there are other ways of being a good steward. So tonight, we're going to try to forego learning to be good stewards of money and learn to be good stewards of other aspects of our lives. I picked 5. I will say they are not in any sort of priority order, and there are way more than 5. Obviously, money is one, and it's not on the list. But there are so many aspects of our life that, you know, that includes our time, our energy, our influence, our resources, our relationships, and even finding some rest. So, and each of these, it reflects on our gratitude and our responsibility toward God. So, we're going to start with our first one. I've got 5 areas of stewardship, and our first one is being a stewardship of self. How can we be good stewards of ourselves? You know, this would involve taking care of yourself, which would be part of honoring God in multiple ways, though. This would be both physically, emotionally, and spiritually. All of these.
Paul, in his letter to the Corinthians, the 6th chapter, tells us that God's the one that makes that we're a temple before God.
Mm-hmm.
We're to honor Him. So, in my belief, the first thing in stewardship is our spiritual lives and our physical lives towards God.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, as you said, Paul instructs us that we are a holy temple unto God, right? You know, that we are supposed to be reflective of God, a reflection of God in that respect. Now, how do we do this? Let me see here. How many of you like Disney World? We got a couple that like Disney World. Okay. What about maybe you're like me and you like video games? Well, but I guarantee you I can get everyone with this one. Maybe you like to sleep. You like to sleep. I know I like sleep too. But ultimately, how can we be good stewards of self spiritually as well? Is in our prayer life, right? We have this throughout Scripture where God and Christ both find rest. Where's the first instance of rest we have in the Bible? Genesis 1st chapter. We have the creation, takes place over 6 days. And what happens that 7th day? God rests, right? Now, I don't think God fell asleep. I don't think God needs sleep like we need sleep and need that kind of rest. But what was he doing? He's reflecting back on what he has just done, what he's created. Mark 6, verse 31. What does it say there? He said to them, "Come away by yourself to a remote place and rest for a while." For many people were coming and going, and they did not even have time to eat. What's happening? In fact, who is he? He is Christ. He is Christ. He is Jesus. And what does Jesus set the example here in doing? He's taking time to rest and withdraw, especially to pray. But how does he do it? He says, we've got to go away. You know, because what's happening? He's getting swarmed. He's getting swarmed by people. People are wanting his attention. And if you've got a lot of people seeking your attention, it can get kind of overwhelming, right? Oh, absolutely. And in fact, in Luke chapter 5, verse 16, what does it say he did? Yet he often withdrew to deserted places and prayed. We are not machines. Not in the same kind of caliber as a car or anything. Although cars need this too. But we need time to recharge and be renewed. This is what Christ is trying to be an example of. We need to renew ourselves. You know, how often does Christ go away from the masses? Frequently. Frequently is a great word for it. He is constantly going, okay, now I need time to go. You remember when the storm hits the ship, what's Jesus doing? He's sleeping, he's resting. He's like, why'd you wake me up? It's going to be fine. No, he finds those times of rest. Why does he need those times of rest? To recharge, so that when those masses are present, what can he do? He can be active, right? He needs time to think. Okay, I'm glad you said that, actually.
If I sit down, I got all my students around me in 2 seconds, and I need time to just let them go.
Mhm.
And have a second.
Sometimes you need that time away, and I'm going to say this, sometimes you even need time away from your spouse and your kids. I'm glad everyone's nodding yes. That way Carrie can't kill me afterwards. And now she even needs time away from me, to be clear too. But you need that time sometimes by yourself. Why do you need it? To think. One of the things I enjoy doing, and I'm sure some others enjoy it as well, sometimes it's nice to just go on a walk. Sometimes it's just a short walk. Maybe 5-10 minutes, you go on a walk. What do you do on that walk? Clear your head. Maybe you reflect. Maybe you spend it talking to yourself. Hopefully you're talking to God. You reflect on that and go, God, I need some answers. I need clarity. Monday we had quarterly meetings, big long quarterly meetings at work this week. And Monday was a very long day. And I came home and I was exhausted. And I told Carrie, what did I need to do? I needed to decompress. I needed to find that space. I needed to withdraw myself to an isolated place. Fun or rest is valuable when it does what? When it restores focus and it avoids burnout. Because what is going to happen if you push and push and push and push? There's no more to give. You're going to be physically exhausted. If you like to work out, you can only work out so much. Eventually, the weight is going to overwhelm you, no matter how much you might be able to lift. You've got to avoid that burnout. You've got to pace yourself. This is good stewardship because it allows us to do what? To serve others. It allows us to spend some time to ourselves. That way we can come back and serve others from a healthy place.
Sometimes we need that preparation time, regardless what the project may be, something that we look forward to, something that we're planning, so that we can best prepare ourselves to do it.
Absolutely. Sometimes it doesn't have to take place after. Sometimes it needs to take place before. Especially, that something's coming up. I need to go to God before this happens. So this might be a rough meeting that I'm going into. So I need to pray on this beforehand so that God keeps me calm while the meeting's going on. Or any sort of instance in our lives. You know, what does it say in Ecclesiastes about time? There is an occasion for everything and a time for every activity, including the fun stuff. You know, I think sometimes, and one thing I did want to say in this about stewardship, especially because stewardship of self, is that it's going to be different for everybody. What you find relaxing, I might not. And in fact, if you throw money back into it, the way you spend money, I might look on it poorly and think, I don't think that's the best way of handling that. I don't think that's the best use of money. But you might. It might be beneficial for you. It might be beneficial for that other person, how they're handling it. You know, that helps them recharge. We each have to find our own ways of recharging. My ways are not always the same ways as Carrie's is. You know, she doesn't like video games. She does not enjoy playing video games. I do. You know, I can sit in front of a television and watch I Love Lucy. She can sit in front of a television and watch crime dramas. Or not even dramas, it's true story, true crime stories. So, fortunately, she has not taken notes yet. So, at least I hope she's not. So, say, I'm still here. So, but, you know, it's important to remember that we have to be self-reflective in that. We need to be going to God in that, and we need to do that. So what is the difference then between healthy self-care and selfishness? The degree, okay?
When it's all about me, you know, rather than preparing yourself for something.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
Absolutely. Selfishness would imply that it's all about me. The Toby Keith song, I want to talk about me, you know, me, you know.
That old saying, my way or the highway.
Ooh, my way or the highway. You know, self-care is about preparation. It's about restoration, renewal, and bringing ourselves back to a state. So how often does rest and fun help us serve God better?
We're happy. We enjoy.
If we are happy and enjoy, we are going to be more apt to please God. You know, it is really great to come into worship service and sing a song with joy. I love when you hear a positive prayer. You know, when we have a positive message and you're filled with that spirit of joy. Now, we're not talking about dancing in the aisles kind of joy. We're talking about joy that connects you. It's within. It's a spiritual joy. So, and then what habits could better steward my body and mind? Are there habits that we can form to be better stewards?
I have started taking time to rest about a year or two ago. Actually taking time to rest because I didn't for years. And So it has helped me, I think, because it helps my focus. When I'm in Bible class or when I'm in church or studying with a friend or whoever, I'm more present in the now.
Mm-hmm.
Than thinking about all the other little things I have to get done. Because when I take the time to rest, then I get more things done. It sounds crazy, but I do.
You feel more inclined.
For it,
You
yeah.
know, when you, setting aside that time of rest, setting aside time to pray. Part of it is just scheduling, if you will. You know, we live very busy lives. You know, I don't know a person among us that probably doesn't live a busy life. You know, And you have to kind of schedule those moments in a way. But it's, okay, not letting ourselves get to that point of frustration and tiredness and going, okay, I'm going to step aside and find that moment.
I think habits can be looking at the bright side, having a positive attitude about things. And that, you know, if you're kind of a complainer and a griper and whiner, it can make your body stressed and
Absolutely.
things that way.
Is turning our outlook to a more positive outlook. I think that's a wonderful thought. So, we could spend an entire lesson on the stewardship of self, easily. But moving on to the second one. We need to be good stewards of work. Now, I am not talking about our work here at the congregation and among the church. Not this work. We're not there yet. So, this work is the work outside of us. Say, you know, we can take this from the avenue of our work at work, at our jobs. You know, we need to be doing our best at work even when no one sees it. You know, what other ways? We can finish our work more carefully and completely, making sure that we're putting in that effort. Helping coworkers without being asked. Now, be careful that you don't just leap in when the coworker doesn't want you to work, but seeking to help others that are needing that help. Keeping our attitudes, and this is the big one for me at work, is keeping our attitudes godly, even at the hard times, but really in everything that we do. Say, you'll notice when we go out into the secular world, what often might you hear when you're out there? Bad language. Say, like I said, I was in a quarterly meeting this week, and I heard some bad language. Now, what's interesting is when people who know me and I'm around them and they let one slip, you know what they do? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that. Oh, sorry about that. You know, why are they doing that? They're giving their respect by recognizing my attitude, how I am presenting myself in these things. You know, we are told to work as if for the Lord and not for men. This is how we are told to do our work. You know, because God values diligence and honesty. Colossians 23, whatever you do, do it from the heart as something done for the Lord and not for people, knowing that you will receive the reward of an inheritance from the Lord. You serve the Lord Christ. And then in Proverbs, what does it say? There is profit in all hard work, but endless talk leads to poverty. You know, if you do your job, what are you going to get? You're going to get a paycheck, hopefully. Hopefully a decent paycheck. So, but if you are laying about doing nothing, you're going to lose that job. So,
Why you want to build character and avoid those pitfalls, things that trigger you to do things that you shouldn't do.
absolutely. We want to build that character of who we are. Have that attitude, that godly attitude, because if we have gotten that, so we've already taken care of ourselves, we're renewed, we're ready to go. You know, Monday was a rough day, it was a long day. You know, I had to renew myself for Tuesday's meeting. You know, and I had to come in with that attitude. Here we go. You know, and when they asked the question at the end of the meeting, so what would you rate this meeting? You know, I'm not going, oh, that was terrible. You know, no, I'm able to answer honestly, but I'm able to give it a more positive thought to it and be a little more optimistic on things.
I think it's important, one thing that you mentioned there about coworkers, your other coworkers are going to notice your attitude. They're going to see if you're the complainer and the whiner and all the time, people don't want to spend time around you.
Absolutely.
There's also people that work harder at getting out of work than actually doing it.
Sometimes it is. It's actually easier to just do the work than it is to get out of the work. So, in fact,
Just give them a job sleeping, that way they can wake up to get.
there you go. I would love a job sleeping. I think that'd be great. You know, Matthew, and I'm not going to read the entire thing, but Matthew 25. Yeah. Matthew 25. It's the story of the talents, the parable of the talents. What happens in that story? You say, there are 3 men given talents. They're given talents. You know, one's given 10, one's given 5, one's given
One's given
1. I had to question myself there. So, you know, what happens to the men? The 2 come back with more. They've used their talents correctly. But what about the last guy? He buries it. He buries it. He doesn't utilize it. And what becomes of it? He gets scolded by the master. And then the money's given away to the other guy. Or the talent is given away to the other guy. You know, faithfulness in small things prepares us for greater responsibilities. If we take care of it, you know, as you were saying, it's easier to do the job sometimes than to get out of the job. If we maintain that faithfulness in those small amounts, it builds us up for greater responsibilities. When you build a house, you build it 1 brick at a time, 1 wall at a time. You know, so a Christian's attitude at work should then be grateful and wholehearted. Hopefully we're renewed so that when we go back to work, we feel good about our work and feel good about what we're doing. So, do I work with integrity when no one is watching? Is the question before us. Can I work with integrity while no one's watching? Sometimes that's kind of hard. It's easy. It's kind of easy to be lazy when no one's watching. So, but when we do this, but God is watching. So. And so how does my attitude reflect my faith? Well, people start noticing, right? You know, as I was saying about profane language that gets spread around, and suddenly they know that you're there, and they go, oh, I'm sorry, Blue, I didn't mean to say that. They start reflecting on that. I have some buddies that I play online video games with. Well, when I first started playing with them, I heard a lot of language coming out of them, a lot. I don't hear as much anymore because they started recognizing he doesn't say this. Maybe he has a reason. I never had to, you know, open the Bible and go, hey, in this scripture, it says don't do this. You know, I'm able to show them in how I act. So, and in so doing so, I kind of answered my third question here. You know, am I honoring God in my work ethic? Absolutely. If I am acting with integrity, if I am showing that attitude, then I am honoring God in that. Our third area of stewardship is home. We're not to family yet, though. I know a lot of times when we say home, we think of family. I actually mean our physical home in this. This is as simple as cleaning the house without being directed, without someone telling you to do this. Say, don't talk to Carrie afterwards about my house. So I think a lot of us could probably use some help maybe in this area, maybe. Say, fixing things rather than ignoring them. Respecting the shared spaces and properties. Making your home a peaceful place for others. Why do we need to make our home a peaceful place for others? It's your sanctuary, it's your haven. Who gave us this home? Who gave us our home? Who gave us our ability to earn so that we can have the homes that we have? God gave us that. Whatever place we have, that is a place we need to make, just as we need to make ourselves holy temples to God. Our home is a reflection of us. The home is a place for peace, hospitality, and care. Quiet. Maybe quiet. Depends. If you've got kids at home that bring in other kids, it might get a little loud. Although I'll send Mira to any one of your houses, and I guarantee you the decibel level is going to go up. When we neglect the home, this shows laziness. And it shows misplaced priorities. In fact, you'll notice as we go through all 5 of these with stewardship, the big word that you can take out of it is priority. Putting priority on things. Being a good steward of our home means we maintain it and we use it for good. What do we say about the parable of the talents? God gives us a talent to use it. God puts things in our lives so that we can use them. Proverbs 24 here. I went by the field of a slacker and by the vineyard of one lacking sense. What happens in that vineyard? Thistles had come up everywhere. Thistles come up into this vineyard. Why? Because it's not being taken care of, and it goes to waste. Weeds can grow in. When we do not take care of the things that we are given, then they go to waste. If you don't take care of your car, eventually the car will break down. And then you're without a car. If you don't take care of your home, the home will fall apart. The same as taking care of ourselves. We need to treat our home as a gift and a tool for service. Our home is a place, yes, for peace and comfort, but not necessarily just for us. Now, and when I say home, I am talking about, one, the physical house, but also any place that we can find comfort and peace. We can talk about the church building, maintaining the church building so that we have a place to come and worship when we talk about this. 1 Timothy 6, instruct those who are rich in the present age not to be arrogant or just set their hope on uncertainty of wealth, but on God. We need to be generous and willing to share. Got to be willing to share. Our home is given to us not necessarily to be selfish. When we talk about selfishness and self-care, our home should be open and inviting. All of these things. So, do I treat my space as something that has been entrusted to me by God? So, how do I treat my space in that manner? Taking care of it. By doing the lawn. By painting the cracks. By what? Call Kevin, yes. Because why? What message does my home send to everyone else? If you drive by my home and all you see is weeds and garbage out in the front, what are you going to think? You're going to think I'm lazy. Are you going to respect me when I come up and teach? You might have some reservations about it. If you're going, he doesn't take care of his property. why should we entrust him as a deacon with the property here at church? So am I using my home to bless or to isolate? Am I using these things appropriately? What is that priority? Okay. Number 4. Your family. Stewardship of family. Say, what are parents called to do for their children? Do what? Bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. I put, train your children in the Lord. They're to be trained in the Lord, right? And what about children? What are children called upon to do? What does it say? Honor your father and your mother. Yes, respect. Now, does that stop when they get outside of your house? It stops when they turn 13. Don't tell me that. I'm getting too close to that. I was about to say, yeah, we've got a 4-year-old that might question you on that. But, I'm still a son. I still have to honor my mother and father. This is the last time I visited him in the hospital, so yeah. I am. I'm the best son. I'm the only one he's got, so. We need to spend time intentionally with our kids, with our family. Sometimes it's just spending time with our spouses, kids, siblings, parents.
I think sometimes it's important for us to spend time with siblings because one of these days, your parents will pass. I'm not.
Ooh.
But that's the family that you're still going to have, so to speak.
You mean I got to put up with them longer?
And what type of relationships, is it? I have some nieces that don't speak to one another anymore, it's a sad situation.
Oh, absolutely. As part of why I put up here for the second one here is helping siblings and honoring parents. That was supposed to be and honoring parents. Helping out our siblings. Getting that relationship right. Because how many sibling groups out there do you see that they don't talk to one another? They get mad at each other over something, and what do? We'll never see each other again. How many, Carrie and I have talked about this before with sibling groups and even cousins, is how often do you see them? Maybe at Christmas, special holidays, funerals, weddings and funerals, that's about it. That's not a good relationship. Teaching God's word at home is part of developing a faithful family stewardship. Because God wants families to reflect him in his love and his unity. What does it say in Ephesians? Children, obey your parents in the Lord. Fathers, don't stir up anger in your children. Now, it doesn't say that dads can't get mad at their kids. But what does it say I am supposed to do as a dad? Bring them up in training and instruction of the Lord. Right? 1 Timothy, but if anyone does not provide for his own family, especially for his own household, he has denied the faith. And he's worse than what? An unbeliever. Good, I got to pick up the pace a little bit. So we'll see. Do I make time for my family, or do I just give them leftovers? Leftovers. Well, hopefully I am making time for them. hopefully it's not just the leftover of myself. You know, if I'm doing a good job of taking care of myself, then hopefully I've got plenty to give. And that I can then make time for them. You know, here in a month, Carrie and I are taking the kids on a cruise. Say, we're going to hopefully relax. Say, parenting in a different spot. You know, say, yeah, we're gonna ship them off to the daycares. As I told Carrie, I want to experience this with them. You know, I want to experience this with them. You know, we'll be on the ship on a Sunday. We plan to tune in, by the way, so we're going to be watching y'all. But we're going to set aside that priority time to instruct them in the Word. How do I show that grace in my family? Is my family stronger because of my influence? Is your family stronger because of your influence? I hope the answer is yes. I think it is yes when I look out at everybody. So
That's why communication is so important, understanding and listening.
absolutely. Communication is one of the most important pieces of developing a relationship. You know, if you want a relationship with someone, you have to have communication. And family has got to be one of the high priorities of that communication.
As a teacher of communication, I would like to thank you for saying, and listening, because listening is part of that communication.
Yes.
Saying what you think and feel is important, but not more important than listening to what they say also.
Yes, but what if I'm right and you are wrong? No.
You still listen so that you can explain to them effectively.
We
why
still
you
need to
are
listen.
right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Listening is part of that communication. Absolutely.
Remember the joke, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth.
Oh dear. And we'll wrap this up with our fifth area. And you might have already guessed what it is. It's church. How can we be good stewards of the church? And I'm not just talking the church, as in the all-encompassing church, but also right here, Southern Ridge. How do we take care of Southern Ridge? How do we take care of the church as a whole, amongst all the brotherhood? You know, every member has a role or a gift to use. How can you do that? Maybe it's volunteering in ministry roles, you know, or maybe you're just operating behind the scenes. You know, someone's got to check all the thermostats. Someone's got to make sure that baptistry is full of water. You know, someone's got to make sure that the bills are paid. You know, all of these things are part of this. Encourage our church leaders, you know, especially our elders. Say, we have 3 really good elders. Make sure I say nice things. You know, they need encouragement constantly. It's not an easy job to be an elder. It's not an easy job to be a deacon. You know, it's not an easy job to be a minister. You know. And I'll even hit it, attending, faithfully attending, and, I got the and in there this time, and participating. Just coming in and sitting on a pew doesn't get anywhere. But coming in and being part of it. You know, we were just talking about relationships. You know, you have to have that relationship. Giving time, energy, money generously. You know. And I'll kind of bring it down to the verse here. So 1 Peter 4:10. What does it say? Just as each one has received a gift, use it to serve others as good stewards of the varied grace of God. with everything that God has given us, we have got to be good stewards with all of these things, with ourselves, with our work, with our home, with our family, with our church. Taking care here on earth, everything that can. These are just 5 things. There's so many more. I mean, we could spend a whole lesson just on each of these individually. You know, there's so much that we are to be good stewards of. What did God do with Adam when he put him in the garden? He put him to work. He put him in charge. He put mankind in charge here on this earth. So, thank you all so much this evening.